Alright, good people, so I started this whole series based on requests from many people, first of all, to do a cookbook, which I don't have time to do, and then I said, okay, maybe I can do something, and people wanted to know, well, what can I cook? What kind of items can I cook? How do I cook if I want to make this transition to a more plant-based or vegan diet? And so far I've done 5 videos, and up to this point they're all videos of food that are cooked. But I want to encourage you to eat maybe half of your diet should be raw, not cooked food. And so sometimes people will ask, well, how do I end up enjoying raw food? And so there are a lot of ways to do that. And so now I'm going to start going in the raw direction. So today I'm going to do 3 items just to show you something a little fancy that you can prepare at home. You can do it for several days. It doesn't have to be for the moment that you're about to eat. But I want to encourage people to eat salads, but I want them to understand that salads can be very, very exotic. So I'm not talking about a little bit of lettuce and some tomatoes. I'm talking about, again, a dish that is prepared, all raw food, that has a number of different items in it so that you are getting a lot of different vitamins in your raw food. So let's start here with kale. Kale is a food that of course many people know about. It's become popular, but then again there are a lot of things you can do with it. It can be cooked, but I also love to eat my kale raw. So here's a version of a raw kale dish. Okay, so this is going to be the raw dish with kale as the primary food today. So I've already cut up some kale. This is Winterbor. The different types of kale. You could use La Sonata, you could use Winterbor or whatever, but that's what we got here today. Also with this kale, I'm going to add some what's called red cabbage. It's got that purple color. Again, when you see that purple, that's like a lot of iron, that's manganese, that's a lot of antioxidants right there. It's one of those foods that a lot of people don't think about consuming. I try to get that kale and that red cabbage into my system several times a week. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to combine this red cabbage with the kale. Now what we're going to do with it, we're going to add these items. I'm going to soften it up with some olive oil. I'm going to flavor it a little bit with some sesame oil as well. A little bit of pink salt, Himalayan salt. I want it a little bit hot, so I'm going to use some different types of hot peppers and also a little cayenne. Again, you may not want your food hot, but again, these peppers are very, very good for your internal organs. They help to keep all the crud out and keep everything moving. So we're going to use that in the food. I've got some nutritional yeast to add the value of yeast here. I've got some vegan mayo. It's called Veganese. We've talked about that before. I got some granulated garlic. Garlic is also good for you. And I've got some apple cider vinegar, which is organic right here. All of these items are going to go in to make this kale. So the first thing I'm going to do with this kale is I'm going to put some olive oil in it. Now, I didn't talk about oil. I mentioned it when I was talking about cooking. I recommend just a few types of oil, really. Seed oils in general are good. Olive oil is an excellent oil. I've also got some grapeseed oil over there. I'm not going to use that right now, but that's another one you can use. Basically, most of the time I'm using olive oil. I'm cooking with a little olive oil, and then sesame oil is the other oil that I like to use. Don't use hydrogenated oils like vegetable oil that's been hydrogenated. Hydrogenated meaning they added water into the oil. Those oils are not good for your body and you should stay away from them. Okay, so we got this oil put in here. I'm going to add in some of this good purple stuff here. with my kale, and I'm going to start to toss it. Just kind of get these guys all together. Again, I just washed my hands before I started, and nobody's going to eat this but me, so I'm good. But if I was making this for someone else, I'd have to have my gloves on and all that. But I'm good today because this is going to be me. And I'm just going to mix this together. Start mixing. Now that oil is going to start working on that kale. And that kale is going to start to soften and get a little bit mushy at a point. Because you want it kind of soft when you're actually eating the kale. I'm going to put in a little bit of Himalayan salt. Himalayan salt is pretty salty. And I'm going to put in a little bit of sesame oil. Sesame oil has a great flavor. And now, yeah, that's probably enough oil for it. Toss it. I'm going to mash it a little bit to get that to interact. I could have used a little more red cabbage, but I'm going to get the value of what we got in there today. Maybe a little bit more kale than I realized in there. Oh, here it comes. So it's on the bottom. Get the red cabbage in there. Alright, then I'm going to add garlic. This is powdered. Then I'm going to add in nutritional yeast. And I had a couple squirts of vinegar in there. Then I'm going to put my peppers in. A little bit of hot pepper. Now right now, I'm going to stop right there and do my mixing. In a minute, I'm going to sample it and see how I'm doing. Now, I love the flavor of this with that nutritional yeast. I may have enough. I'm not going to tell you exactly how much because I want you to experiment and find out how much you want for the taste that you like. I like mine pretty yeasty, so we will see. Now, you'll notice it's starting to mellow out a little bit, starting to soften up, and yeah, I'm going to hold that right there, and then I got to put in a little bit of mayo. So that should be enough mayo. Put a little more of this garlic in here. I want it real garlicky. And just a little more of my nutritional yeast. I'm going to mash that in, stir that in. And it's really just that simple. It's just a matter of mashing this, mixing it, mashing it down, letting it set. And again, your flavor, you just start out and you find out what level of flavor do you want. And that goes for the hot pepper as well. How much hot pepper would you want in it? Completely up to you. Now you see now with everything mixed in there, now it's ready for me to taste and see whether I need to add anything else to it. Again, it's just my particular taste. So I'm going to taste it and see. And that is actually perfect right there. That's where I want it. So I'm just going to keep mixing this up. And after I get it mixed up good, just gonna let it sit about 15 minutes or so. It'll be just like I want it. I just kind of mash it down like that. That'll be just like I want it, and I'm going to leave this, and I'm going to move on to the next item. Alright, so the next dish is going to be focused on broccoli. So broccoli is the star item in this dish, but I'm going to add a few things to make like a small broccoli salad here, which ultimately is going to be a part of a meal that's going to go along with my kale. So we got broccoli here. I'm going to add some mushrooms into that dish. I'm going to add onions and chopped garlic. This garlic is chopped live. So it's live onion and garlic. I'm going to add that to the dish. I'm going to add some chopped carrots to this dish. And then I'm going to add some chopped cucumber and red pepper. And those items are going to make this broccoli dish. Now I'm going to do something very similar that I did before, except this time I'm going to add golden curry. So I'm going to start by putting some golden curry, get that turmeric in there, because turmeric is one of those items that you want to have in your diet on a fairly regular basis. The other thing, once again, I'm going to add some nutritional yeast to that. Maybe not as much. And then once again, I'm going to add a little bit of my vinegar. And then once again, I'm going to add veganese to this. That should be enough. We'll mix this together. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of organic sugar to this. Just a little to affect the taste of it. And then I'm just going to mix this all together. So we got a lot of different foods in here. And sometimes with this particular item, this broccoli dish, another thing you can add is maybe nuts. You can put pecans or walnuts or whatever if you prefer to put in your salad. But right now, just showing you one version of what you can do that will improve not only the flavor of your food, but also making sure that you get a lot of good vitamins in there. And maybe I'll add just a touch of salt again, just a touch, not much. Bring those flavors out. And that's going to be my broccoli. Now I'm looking at it by the color. I need to add a little more of this curry to it. So I'm going to do that. Of course, curry has its own flavor that it adds. Now I'm just going to sample it and see how much flavor I got in this. Yep. That's pretty much where I want it, right there. So I got one more little surprise for you. Alright, surprise, surprise. My third item is definitely going to be a combination that people probably haven't thought of yet. Unless you live out in Southeast Asia, you might have gotten there, but I kind of even doubt that. So what I'm doing is I'm taking some superfoods, put them together for a super healthy raw salad to go along with my other two salads. The feature items to go with this dish. The first one is dried seaweed, and then the second one is raw beets. So the seaweeds, I've been soaking it in water. You have to take the dried seaweed and soak it in water for a little while. Within 10 to 15 minutes, it'll get real soft. And then I'm just going to chop that up. And then I just used a grater, took a raw beet root, and just grated that down into those little slices there. Then I'm going to add to this combination, it's going to be yeast again, nutritional yeast. I'm going to add a little bit of sugar. I'm going to have chopped up fresh ginger in there. And I'm going to add even a little bit of orange sauce for that orange flavor in there. And a little bit of that vegan mayo, and then stir those babies up, and it is an amazing difference. And even if you don't like seaweed or beets, I guarantee you this doesn't taste like either. It's some kind of strange combination that has a totally different flavor once it's done. So let's get on it. Alright, so I'm going to take my seaweed. I've strained it to take the water out. Just going to take a knife and cut it into smaller pieces. This will make it easier to consume and mix in. So it's about maybe sort of about the same as the kale was. So we put that in. One still kind of, it's a little bit rubbery at first. But once again, once we start adding all these ingredients, it's going to be easier to consume. Again, I already washed my hands, so now nobody's going to eat this but me. Alright, so I got my seaweed. Now I'm going to add in the beets. I cut the beets up and grind them and do whatever I'm going to do with the beets. I do that in a little saucer or a big plate to keep from getting that beet juice all over the place and staining the wrong thing, because that can happen. Alright, now I'm going to throw in fresh garlic. Now I'm going to throw in some nutritional yeast. Now I'm going to throw in just a little bit of cane sugar. And now I'm going to throw in a little orange spice. It's orange sauce. You can pick that up at a lot of places. Alright, then I'm going to mix all this up. Again, you might, if you don't like or think you don't like beets, a lot of people never even had raw beets. They've only had them pickled. And when you say beets, they automatically think of that pickled beet taste. But raw beets are different. They don't taste like that. They do have a distinct taste, but these two together make an even more distinct taste. So we're going to stir that up right there. Now I'm just going to add in a little mayo. Not much. Yeah. Alright, now I'm going to stir this, and then once again, once I get it pretty much stirred up, I can look at it and see that it doesn't have enough nutritional yeast yet. So I'm just going to add a little more in there. Pretty much I know from the color and the texture how much I need. But again, for you, you want to just keep adding or subtracting, whatever, to get the flavor that you want. That nutritional yeast adds a kind of a nutty, cheesy like flavor to food. And so you may want more or less. It depends. So I'm going to taste that. Yeah. A little bit more. Got a lot of ginger in there. And then once again, I'm going to add a little cayenne pepper. Now, you might not want yours to be hot, but I like a little heat with mine. Alright. Mix that up. Now another thing too, if you want a little bit sweeter, it's alright with me just like it is, but if you want it a little bit sweeter, you can add sweet chili, like a Thai sweet chili. Just a little bit of that in there, but otherwise, that's pretty much it. Alright, so if I take my 3 different types of salad, I could eat them individually, just as a salad with anything else, or like I most often do, I can combine them on one plate as a raw dish, throw some other types of greens under there, like I got a spring mix underneath that, and I added some raw sprouted seeds here, and some olives and some tomatoes, and I tell you, by the time that I finish this dish, I will be full, and this will keep me full for about 8 hours at least. I might not have anything else other than fluids the rest of the day.